Welcome to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen, hosted by attorneys Shawn Garner and Adam Hansen.
Welcome to another edition of Life, Death, and the Law. I'm Shawn Garner, attorney with Deason, Garner, and Hansen. I'm in studio with my partner, Adam Hansen, and we have a special guest on the show today, Mike Green from RV World. Welcome, Mike.
Good morning, Shawn and Adam. How you guys doing today?
Good. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So it's Veterans Day, so first and foremost, I want to acknowledge all those veterans out there that have served our country proudly and all those that are currently serving. Thank you so much for what you do, for putting your life on the line to maintain the freedoms that we hold so dear.
Absolutely. I love that, and we have to appreciate those veterans and everything that they've done for our country.
So, Mike, I want to get a little bit into your story. RV World is a huge success here in Yuma. It's a staple in the community. Tell me the background of RV World. Was that something that just was an heirloom that was handed down the family from generation to generation? How did it begin, and how did you become the owner?
Well, I don't know if you have enough time for that on your show here.
We'll make enough time.
Yeah, the condensed version. My mom and dad moved to Yuma in 1991. Dad invited me down to come to work with him. We started on a couple acres over there, and just fast forward to today, and you know some of the background because we've done business with your company here. My dad passed in 2018. I was a successor in the business, and here we are today. Mom and Dad and I worked together all through the 90s and the 2000s, building the company together. And quite truthfully, we're having the time of our lives doing that.
Everybody has a story about how they came to Yuma. And I tell a lot of people that ask me if I like Yuma, because I go to Phoenix frequently for, both doctor's appointments and business, and I get the question, why Yuma? And I answer them, I go, Yuma's an acquired taste. It's one of those communities that if you don't like it, you probably, that's it. That's not your thing. But when you do acquire that taste, it's in your blood, and it's in my blood. I love Yuma, and I can tell it's in your blood.
Yes, it is.
But you weren't born here. You're not a native Yuman. So how did you transport to Yuma?
So I lived in the San Diego area, and so did my parents. That's where I was born and raised. And my dad had worked for another RV dealership in the early 80s. Him and my mom spent some time down here, and they loved it down here. So his goal was to, hey, someday I'm going to open up a dealership down there.
So he worked as a salesperson at a...
He was a salesperson, then a general manager.
Okay.
At a competitor for 16 years.
Was it always at RV lots, or was it used cars in general?
Well, he started selling cars in the late 60s. And so just a little history on his RV knowledge. Prior to that, he was in the trucking industry.
Okay.
So he's working selling cars. The guy that owned the car dealership bought 10 Class A motorhomes at an auction. This was if I remember correctly, about 1969. And they said, hey, we'll get Bill to help us sell. Bill's my dad.
Yeah.
We'll get Bill to help us sell those motorhomes because they're big. They're like trucks, and he knows about trucks. He'll be able to sell them. So things went pretty well, so they bought more RVs, and pretty quick, they opened up an RV dealership, and my dad just kind of drafted right in there. And growing up, I mean, when he was back selling cars, our family vacations, he'd go rent a little travel trailer, hook it up to a big brand new Pontiac station wagon, and we'd take off to Oregon and go fishing.
That's when cars had engines like trucks.
Right, exactly. I mean, that station wagon was longer than the trailer we were towing. It was gigantic. But he always loved the camping and the RVing, and what it did for our family growing up. So when he got the opportunity to get into the RV business, it wasn't just, hey, I think I can make some money selling these boxes. He loved the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the lifestyle is really where it's at, because you're going to have a great time whether you're in a $1,000 trailer or $1 million bus, you can still have the same good time. And you got your family together. Anyway, so he really believed in that. And it was that's kind of what got him into the business. So later on, they bought a couple acres down here. He persuaded me to move down here. And I'll tell you right now, I moved down here. I was in the trucking business. I was hauling in and out of Yuma and Imperial Valley. And, I knew it was hot. I knew it was the desert.
So he gave you a truck.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I started at 16 years old driving.
Okay.
And
did he just hand you the keys and said, "Hey, here's a job opportunity"?
Well, yeah, it's like here's an old 73 Mack truck. See if you can go make a living. If you go broke, figure it out. Don't call me. So anyway, he persuaded me to move down here. I moved down here, and I thought, "Oh man, what did I get myself into?" It was June when I moved. Picked a great time of year to move down here.
But how long did you haul driving your truck?
From 76 basically till 1991, till I moved here.
Okay, so it wasn't just a short stint like, here, go drive a truck for 6 months and kind of figure out your way around a diesel.
No, I earned a living doing it. And then, this was, there was nothing wrong with driving the truck, but you're kind of limited on what you can do and how big you can grow.
Did you have a lot of excess cash? And how was your money flow?
You know what? I don't think I've ever had enough excess cash. That's a trick question.
Yeah,
appreciate asking that. But he persuaded me to move here. But back to what you were talking about loving Yuma, I do. I don't want to go anywhere else. I mean, I love it here, and it took a while, not really very long, but. When I first moved here, we could stand on the freeway in front of the dealership out there on Interstate 8, and there would be no cars. I mean, it was quiet. And then all of a sudden a car would be coming, and you'd think, oh, maybe they're going to pull in here and take a look, and they just go right on by. So, that certainly has changed. But like you pointed out, every time I go to Phoenix or San Diego, not that I don't like either place, but I was in San Diego all day yesterday, and I thought, boy, I'm sure glad I don't have to put up with all this traffic and all these people. And it's big.
Yeah.
It's big.
It's gorgeous. The climate is amazing. It looks like the Jurassic Park of all the plants that I try to get to grow around my house that like they got on steroids and they're just growing like crazy over there. And I'm envious of that. But then it's true, when I get back to Yuma, I breathe this sigh of relief that I can finally relax a little bit because I just feel like there's so much going on that my nerves are a little bit on edge.
Yeah. Well, and you stop and think about your commute time to work. And I know where you live. So it's pretty close. It's very, our dealership is very close to where I live. But, it takes me 7 minutes if I hit the light red.
Right.
The one light.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I've got a lot of friends in San Diego still, and I listen to them like, oh man, my commute, it's like an hour and 20 minutes to get to the office today.
And it's not like a peaceful drive where they set cruise control. It's an hour and 20 minutes bumper to bumper that if you let one car length in between you and the next car, and somebody's going to sneak in.
Right. And your hands are at the 10 and the 2, and you're on point for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Just what you want to do on your way home.
It's probably more stressful than the actual job that they do.
I'm betting it is, but you stop and think about that. Let's say if it's an hour a day each way, that's 2 hours away from your family.
Right.
That's a lot. Do that times, 5 days a week or, 22 work days a month or however many work days in a year. I mean, that adds up to a lot of time of unpleasantness.
Speaking about quality of life and employees going to work, tell me a little bit about your employees. How many do you have?
Right now, 64.
Okay. And when you interview somebody for a job, what's the primary characteristic that you're looking for?
One of the things that I look at, and maybe this is a little bit old-fashioned, the first thing I look at is how many previous jobs have they had.
In quick succession?
Right.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that I look at, and another old-fashioned thing, I like a handshake and eye contact and just some of those things. So it's yeah, I know there's a lot of different ways to interview somebody, but I prefer just to sit down and, like you're interviewing me right now. I like that.
Yeah.
Just you just get to know each other a little bit and see what they're all about.
When you're interviewing them, other than just your gut feeling as to what type of character do they have, what type of traits do you like to pursue in an employee? Is there a certain background and training and skill that they have, or is it more of a personality and a deep set of beliefs?
Well, it depends on, what position they're applying for. Like in our sales department, I always think that people that come from the food service industry are a really good candidate because they're used to dealing with a lot of people, and people are very demanding.
So food service industry, like fast food?
No, like, I'm sorry, like a waiter, waitress.
Oh, okay.
Somebody in the restaurant business.
Got it.
That'd be a better analogy.
Yes, I totally agree. And I can say that because I've been there. I've been a server. I worked as a server at Outback Whitehouse or Outback Steakhouse. And it's interesting because you were at their beck and call, and you work your tail off for the half an hour that they're eating for a $2 to $10 tip, right? And it's very humbling. Anything that they ask, they're right? If they tell you that their Coke that's full of ice is not cold enough, it's not cold enough.
They're right.
And so you're working your tail off to do that, and you're constantly on your feet, and you're really looking for the tables that you've been assigned to be full. You don't want to be sitting in the back waiting in the kitchen for someone to arrive in your section. You want to be working your tail off because it's the tips that really make your weight. It's not the hourly rate that make it. And so I think it promotes that hunger to get out there and actually do the work.
Absolutely. And as a customer at a restaurant, when you get a good server, you cannot tip that guy or girl enough.
Yeah.
Whatever you just, I don't know, they make your experience. And if it's a great experience, you don't have enough money in your wallet to tip them for that, because they deserve it.
Right.
Because not only are they taking care of you, and you'll answer this question better because I've never done it, but I got no idea how many tables a waiter's taking care of at any given time. But he's got, what, 5 or 10 guys?
It was 5 for us at Outback Steakhouse, and of course, depending on the restaurant and the type of food that they serve and how many courses, I'm sure it's different in every situation.
Right. So it really, not only you got to take care of me, you got 4 other tables that are, and I'm pretty easy to get along, but he put it out there. I'm going to eat it or drink it. It's good.
So is the customer always right?
The customer's always right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Have you experienced that? I mean, you think our culture's changed a little bit if I go to Tractor Supply and I'm going through that aisle, or Cal Ranch or Sears?
I think
Sears
so.
anymore?
I think so. I mean, I think you see certain companies that are starting to realize that, customer service, I think, kind of slipped away for a while.
Yeah.
And that's really, at the end of the day, the only thing that makes your company any difference to people.
I think, with Sears and Kmart, they probably thought they were too big to fail. They thought that they could put out whatever they wanted and treat you however they wanted, shine the floors, not shine the floors, replace the lights or not, and it didn't matter. And they found out the hard way it does matter.
Right.
We got to take a break. This is Life, Death, and Law. We'll be back talking more about what it takes to make it in the world today.
Coming up, more thought-provoking conversations on life, death, and the law right after this.
Hey, Yuma, Dave Ramsey here. If you listen to our show or know anything about us, then you know I only recommend products and services I trust and I believe in. That's why when it comes to protecting your assets and planning for your loved one's future, you've got to call my friends Shawn Garner and Adam Hansen at the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen. I encourage you to take the first step and attend a free, no-pressure seminar and learn all of your options. The firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen has been educating the Yuma community for over 40 years, and this is the only area of law that they practice. Shawn and Adam believe in giving free education to help people make smart decisions about their assets and help them leave a legacy for their family that they can be proud of. Schedule a free personal consultation today. Call 783-4575 or visit yumaestateplanning.com.
You're listening to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by Deason, Garner, and Hansen, the law firm that has been voted Yuma's best 6 years in a row.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Law. I'm attorney Adam Hansen. This is Shawn Garner. We've got our special guest, Mike Green. Mike, you operate a very successful RV dealership here in town, right? You've been doing that, it looks like, since 1991. That's what your hat says.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Got to put that out there.
Yeah. And as we were chatting before in the last segment, I asked you the question, is the customer always right? You talked about, yeah, they are. And I know personally I've had experiences where I go to Lowe's or I go to Home Depot or I go around town and it feels like I'm not always right when I'm going through those lines.
That's if you can find somebody in the store to even talk to.
Yeah.
Is that a bigger reflection on minimum wage laws? It's a big issue, you know, where when the state, in my opinion, tells an employer, you have to pay your employees this much. Well, as an employer, we're looking for ways to cut costs. And so oftentimes that comes in the form of technology and getting rid of employees, unfortunately. Have you experienced that at all?
You know, not so much in our industry.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about, you know, poor customer service, and I think that it boils down to training, you know. And for example, if I have one of our managers come to me and they're saying, you know, hey, you know, Joe out here is, you know, he's not cutting it. He's not doing the job right.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my standard thing, and I think they know it now too, but they go in the mirror and talk to yourself and ask you, did you give Joe the training that he needs? Did you show him the way? You can tell him, you know, but you need to show him. You know, we need to lead by example. And I think what happens, you know, in a lot of, you know, and I've never worked for a big corporation, so I don't know, but I only think this, that, you know, the guy gets up the corporate ladder and all of a sudden he's like, hey, I'm not going to go out on the floor and help a guy find a 2x4. I'll tell you how to do it, but I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta show him the way. And then if you've showed him the way and you've tried to teach him, he's still not getting it, you know, then that's when you make an adjustment.
I think your situation with your dealership is unique, and also in what we talked about with the servers is unique, because the individual is responsible and accountable on each situation, each transaction as to how much compensation they're going to receive, because your people get paid off of commission.
Correct. The salespeople.
The salespeople get paid off of commission, and servers get paid primarily off of tips. But if you're getting an hourly wage, I think oftentimes that sense of entitlement kind of creeps in, and the training is much more necessary. There's not as much character that I think has been built into the generation like Gen Zs out there as there have been in periods past, because they've been brought up to feel like they're right. And other people need to cater to their feelings and their whims. And so with the customer always being right, I want to get back to macroeconomics a little bit here. And the question is, does a market economy serve the people better than a socialistic economy or a communistic economy? And the answer is, when you're doing a market economy, you're focusing 90 to 95% of your time considering, what can I do to make those who I'm trying to serve happier? Because if they're not happy, they're not going to buy the product or pay you for the service that you're offering. Now, when the government is offering it, and the people that are the bureaucrats of the government that are actually handing out the service or the product, they have guaranteed jobs, they're not real concerned about whether or not the public that they're serving are happy, because they just have a job to do. And they're going to have that job tomorrow or the next day, regardless of how successful and how happy their customers are. But in a capitalistic society, it's often branded as something that is very greedy and selfish and people just want more and more for themselves, when in reality, the people that own the capital and are running the business are really trying to provide that service at the highest level and at the lowest price possible. So they're looking out at everybody else. It's the most altruistic system that we have.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the private business, again, the only thing that makes your business different is your people. And you've got to, train and talk about, you want everybody to leave your business with a product a little bit happier than they thought they would be.
Yeah.
Period.
And if and people are coming in with high expectations in the first place, so that really sets the bar high.
Higher and higher every single day. And no matter how minute their problem might be, that's a big deal to them. And you have to address it, handle it, and make them happy. I've over the years, we've had, different situations where, a customer come in unhappy about something and maybe it wasn't covered under warranty. I look at it as, hey, you know what, we're going to fix that anyways for you, no charge. Then my service manager might be like, man, it's like $200. Well, I can't buy that ad for $200.
Right.
And I genuinely want the customer happy. And I don't want them happy just about the money or just about the deal. I want them happy with their RV and they're out there enjoying the lifestyle that they chose to spend their hard-earned money on. And if every product had the attitude, and let me back up, we're not 100%. I'd love to be, but I think we tried really hard. But if everybody did that, then, simple old rule, just treat your customer like you would want to be treated if you had that, if the roles were reversed.
Right.
Make them happy, period. So maybe they're not right, but, being right and being happy, maybe two different things a little bit, but you always want them happy.
Because we know that there are a lot of irrational people out there expecting things that are unreasonable. But for us to go the extra mile and to try to resolve the issue not only makes us more cordial as an individual to deal with, but it promotes the business overall. And I think that they win in the sense that they leave as a happy individual, and you win because you've got more business to deal with in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people that are irrational, because I always try to gosh, how could you think that?
Mm-hmm.
They've been wrong somewhere and treated badly someplace on something that has caused them to get this attitude of, I don't know, entitlement or whatever you want to call it. Something happened to them somewhere along the way.
Uh-huh.
And you want to, I look at it as a challenge. Hey, let's get the corner turned and get these people happy. And then it's not, because you'll hear people say all the time, oh, you don't want to talk to that guy. He's like a used car guy.
Yeah.
Or,
Yes.
Yes. You don't want that.
That's a stigma out
you
there.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you know what? We had a good experience there. We're gonna tell 10 people. If they have a bad experience, they're gonna tell 200.
Right.
So, hey, I'll take the 10 or the 20 that they might tell that it was good. That's what you want.
I think we have you have a clip you wanted to show, Shawn.
Yeah. So I want to talk more about an employee's mentality that isn't getting compensated directly based on their performance, for example, commissions and the sales that they make. And if you've had experience with employees that, regardless of how much you try to tell them, they feel like showing up late for work isn't a big deal, or regardless of how well they work and how efficient they are, they expect their vacation time to be there. They're going to take it off whenever they have it available, regardless of the level of workload that they have pending. And I want to play a clip here that kind of explains the mentality, the two different mentalities that we as parents can raise in our children, and we as employees and we as employers see among employees that we hire. So I'm going to play this clip real quick. It's quite good. And I want to, before we play this clip, I want to just preface it with, I love sports when comparing real life scenarios, because in sports, they don't care what color you are. They don't care what your background is. They care what your performance is. And I don't understand why we can have affirmative action in our highest institutions of learning and think that that's going to promote the quality of our nation and our community in general, when we don't do the same thing on our basketball teams and our football teams and our hockey teams and our baseball teams, because in those teams we want to win. And we don't care what color they are. We want them to win. And they're never diverse across, they're never an accurate representation of the population of the community that they're playing in. They are a representation of the best athletes that the owner of the team could acquire, and the fans are only mad if the team doesn't win. They're not mad if they got too many of a certain color of individual.
What would you say makes an athlete the best athlete? Let's use Michael Jordan as an example, where we grew up in that era, right? The Bulls and Jordan. What would make him one of the best basketball players of all time? His skin color?
Absolutely not. His dedication and his commitment to his craft.
Yeah.
And his attitude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of things I think that make a great athlete, but it has to do with what's in that man's heart.
And I think you said it right earlier. I think it was last segment. You said you lead by example as an employer or as a manager or person that's involved with the employees, let's say on a lower level. You lead by example. And I think you think of Michael Jordan or you think of Kobe Bryant or any of these that have been some of the greatest basketball players of all time. It's not just that they can make shots. It's that they can have people coalesce behind them and be one for a purpose, if that makes sense, or a Tom Brady in the NFL. Well, it seems like you have individuals in these high levels of athleticism that have the capability. When they're on your team, you win. Mm-hmm. Is that an anomaly? You know, you watch Tom Brady move around. Whatever team he goes to, they start winning. They start going to Super Bowls. So it begs the question, well, what is Tom Brady doing on the field and off the field to make that happen? And I think it's more than just playing the game really well. I think you have to have everybody with you. You have to have all 12 players on that football team that are on the field at the time trust you and be with you. And I think that's the same concept with an employer. We have to be together in purpose, and they have to trust you. Know that we have your back. You know, if you have a customer that comes in and they're yelling and screaming at you, the customer's always right, but I still have your back. There's a way to deal with that.
Yeah. And what drives me crazy is when individuals say, what kind of society do we live in where we pay a baseball player, $50 million a year, and we pay a teacher $50,000 a year? And I say, well, hold on a second. Let's back up a little bit. First of all, you don't pay that baseball player. The owner of the team pays the baseball player. And the owner of the team is not demanding money out of your pocket, at the threat of you go to jail if you don't pay it to pay that baseball player. You are, if you do contribute to their salary at all, it's because you wanted to go see that baseball player perform. You wanted to see that team win. And so you are voluntarily contributing to his salary. Whereas a teacher, yes, as a society, I think that we should put a higher priority on teachers because they're so important in molding our children's minds. But it's the tax dollars that are taken from us to pay the teacher. And whether we like it or not, that is taken from us. And so what it comes down to is, okay, if you want the teacher to be paid more, then you need to invest in a private school and pay a teacher the salary that you think that they're deserving, because that's the only way you can control it. With a baseball player, you can't complain about what they earn because we are determined and voluntarily contributing to their salary, and they're worth every bit of what we voluntarily give to them. Now, are some of the government employees worth what they receive by the tax dollars that they forcibly take from us and reattribute to them? I don't think so. You go to the DMV, and I don't think the customer service is there.
I agree with you, and boy, that's just that's a tough question. But basketball players, baseball players, professional sports players making lots of money. It's just like anything else of supply and demand. Yet the owner, the supply and demand for good school teachers, they're again, it's kind of like paying a good server at a restaurant. You can't pay them too much.
think the problem that happened with it is not that we as a society don't appreciate teachers. I think the government inserted themselves into education, and anytime they do that with any aspect of society, they ruin it.
Right.
Can you think of an industry that the government has taken over that thrives and that people are happy to participate in? Look at the IRS, look at the DMV, look at the Postal Service. I have a picture on my phone that I snapped. I sent it to you, Adam. It was about 2 months ago, driving down the highway, and I snapped this picture of this Rivian electric Amazon truck that looks like it's something out of the future driving down. The person driving, it's got this uniform, well-dressed, well-groomed. And then right behind it is this USPS. It's like a 1998 GMC Jimmy with a paint peeling on it. And the box is literally strapped to the roof with some Harbor Freight orange tie-down. And I'm thinking, this organization, the USPS, the United States Postal Service, is getting billions of dollars a year in subsidies to do the same thing as Amazon, and look at the quality of service they're providing. That's what happens when you allow the government to get involved in the industry. And that's why teachers get paid so poorly, because we don't directly contribute to their salary and directly receive in return from our contributions. If we had more of a customer service, a free market interaction with education, I think we'd get a lot more for our buck, and the teachers would be a lot happier with their jobs.
We didn't get to your wonderful clip.
Okay.
So we'll do it in the next segment. We're out of time. We got to go to the next segment. But when we come back, we'll do your clip. Mike and I haven't seen the clip. We haven't vetted this thing, so we don't know if it's any good.
It's got a lot
We're
of
gonna let Shawn know.
in it. There's some it's good.
We're going with Shawn.
We're going with Shawn.
We have to.
I'll let you know right now.
We're in the back seat, though.
Oh, yeah. If it's not a good clip, I'm going to let you know.
Yep.
We'll be right back. This is Life, Death, and the Law.
Coming up, more thought-provoking conversations on life, death, and the law right after this.
Want to hear more Life, Death, and the Law? You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, or any other platform you listen to your podcasts.
You're listening to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by Deason, Garner, and Hansen, the law firm that has been voted Yuma's best 6 years in a row.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and the Law. I'm Shawn Garner, attorney at Deason, Garner, and Hansen. I'm in studio here with Adam Hansen and our special guest, Mike Green. Now, we are attorneys that help people organize their affairs, their financial affairs, and their family affairs, for that matter, to make sure that if they become disabled or they pass away, that their legacy can be continued on without interruption. We try to keep the government out of their lives as much as possible, so their family or their chosen charity or whatever organization they want to pass on their legacy to can receive what they have worked for over a lifetime. Now, that being said, how am I qualified to talk about what I am, and that is social justice and how politics should be run and what goes on in society and what makes a good employee? Well, because I live and breathe in this society, and I see what works. And I have studied at some length. I was a political science major. What worked around the world, and there is zero examples of socialism working around the world. It's not that it wasn't implemented correctly in a certain culture at a certain period of time. It was that the quicker it failed was a correct demonstration of how well it was implemented. The better it's implemented, the quicker it drops off and demonstrates that it's another disaster, because individuals, we are incentivized by what we actually can build and acquire, and if that is based on helping other individuals, then we are going to help other individuals to help ourselves acquire and achieve more. We are goal-oriented individuals. We always want to achieve more for ourselves and our family, and if that's going to be capped and limited at a certain amount, regardless of how well we perform, then our performance is going to drop off the charts. If it is based directly on how well we can serve others, then our performance is going to climb to heights that are unimaginable. And innovation and inventions are going to help everybody's lives become better. Mike, you've done that by providing good service with RVs and people to get out there, recreational vehicles, and enjoy time with their families by making it an enjoyable experience in purchasing the RV in the first place. So when they get out there, they can relax and spend a little time away from their day-to-day grind. So I want to play a clip about how we get the mentality into society in general about people that want to produce and people that want to become better themselves, as opposed to those who expect or are entitled to those around them to provide everything that they want. And sports is a wonderful analogy because the scoreboard doesn't lie. And you don't get affirmative action in sports because it simply doesn't work. The people that perform the best, white or black or anywhere in between, are going to get the position because crowds only like to watch winning teams, and owners only thrive when their teams are successful. So let's play this clip.
Kids I'm trying to recruit. Are you hungry or you just want something to eat? Now a hungry kid, he gonna make a mayonnaise sandwich, he gonna find a place to play, he gonna call all around to get in the gym, he gonna figure it out. But a kid who wants something to eat, he got a cabinet full of food, he just sitting at home waiting for somebody to cook it. He ain't trying to cook it. So does he practice? Yeah, because you ask him to. Does he work out? Yeah, because you know, like, come on, let's work out. But he ain't hungry. And so when you get to the Division I level, we got to get guys so hungry. We don't need guys who just want something to eat. But for a parent has to raise, you're raising one or two kids. You're either raising a wolf or a sheep. Now, you raise a sheep, you're going to have to protect them all the time. And that's what's happening to parents. They want to protect their kids all the time because that's a sheep. You always got to protect the sheep. You can't never leave a sheep alone. That's what it is. But a wolves will find other wolves will find some way to eat. And they have to realize that. Because struggle builds character. They're trying to take away the struggle and there's no character being built in it.
Pretty strong.
What's your take? Is he right or wrong?
I think, you know, there's a lot more to it, but yeah, he's right.
What more is there to it?
Now, how long have we got?
Let's get some pearls of wisdom from Mike Green here.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly probably never going to win Father of the Year, but it has a lot to do with the way you raise your kids. And
how many kids do you have?
I have two.
Okay.
I have two. I have a son that's 38 and a daughter that's 31. And they're both great kids. I'm really, 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 really lucky. You know, there was a saying around, and I'm going to try to recall it exactly. It's like, my dad didn't tell me how to live. He showed me how to live and let me watch him do it. And that's, you know, again, it just goes back to teaching. Just like we were talking earlier about, you know, your employee that might not be doing a good job. Well, did you teach him? Did you show him?
Yeah, I can attest to that about your dad because even though I never bought an RV from him, because
You wanted to.
I did want to, and if I would have bought an RV anywhere, I would have bought it from him. But when he walked into the office, there was a presence about him that guy was a worker. You could tell. You could take one look at his face, and you knew that he knew how to put in an honest day's work.
Yes, he did. He did. And you know, might joke with, I have two younger sisters, and we always joke around that, you know, the first word that we learned at our house growing up wasn't mom or dad. It was positive attitude. And it really was. I mean, he beat that into our heads, you know, just, I mean, from day, as long as I can remember. You know, I'd get in a little bit of trouble at school or something and come home and, you know, I just beg him. I like, you know, can you just get the razor strap out and beat me with it? Do I have to sit here and listen to it?
Yeah.
Why did I do this? What did I think?
That's the worst punishment.
The lecture.
Boy, it just, you know, but, you know, looking back today, he was the greatest teacher in the world, in my eyes.
Did you have disagreements? Do you ever remember any disagreements with him?
You know, it's funny you would ask that. I was talking about this the other day. He, you know, we worked together for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I don't recall ever going home upset at him, but I'm pretty sure he went home upset at me on more than one occasion.
That's how Shawn and I are.
Yeah, and I asked him, and Shawn knows my dad passed from cancer, and I spent a lot of time with him in his last months. I'd go see him every single night after work. Sometimes the conversation was 2 minutes, sometimes it was 4 hours, just depending on how he felt. And I asked him one day, I said, Dad, I got a question for you. And he goes, yeah, what is it? And I go, why didn't you just kill me when I was in my 40s? And he was like, well, boy, he says, I'll tell you what. He goes, I thought about it, and it was, he goes, but I thought you would come around. I knew you would come around. He goes, I just didn't think it'd take so long, and I'll never forget that conversation. And I just, I thank God every day that I had that time with him, because we just kind of like relived everything, during that time.
The important stuff, right? Everything else just fades away.
The speaker went off here. Sorry about that.
You're fine.
So I can go here, yeah.
Okay.
I got a glimpse into how your family operated and how close they were, just by working with you, and that's a big reason that we maintained a friendship over these years. I think it's probably going on 10 years now.
Yes, it is.
And one of the things that I wanted to know was, did you get handed this dealership, or did you earn this dealership? And after going out and visiting the dealership, I was really blown away with how much you knew about each rig that was out there. And you've got a lot of nostalgia for some rigs that got a special place in your heart, because you grew up with them, you worked hard on them, you restored them, and now they resemble a period of your life that was the struggle, where you didn't have a lot left over at the end of the week. And so you really want to preserve those core memories. And your dad raised you to be a wolf. You're going to eat. And I, just driving by your dealership, I could get the false assumption that this is an individual that is wealthy and was probably part of a dynasty of a family that walked into this. But spending time with you, I see your car, and now I recognize your car. I see your car there early in the morning, and I see your car there in the evening as well.
What are you doing up so early?
Well, exactly. And so I know you put a ton of time and work in. So what was it that made you a wolf in the fact that you're going to go out there and you're going to make it in society, whether it's selling cars or hauling hay?
Well, I mean, I think it again, it boils down to that attitude and a work ethic.
What do you mean by attitude?
You just got to have a positive attitude every day, period. I mean, because stuff's going to go wrong, and but your attitude is 90% of your problem is going to be your attitude and how you take care of it. And there's nothing that can get thrown at you that there's always a solution. Might not be pretty, it might not be what you want, but there's always a solution to every problem. And I just wake up in the morning believing that.
And I know that you could retire right now if you wanted to, but you don't. And why is that?
Well, I love what I do. And I love, and I, honest to God, I love our people that we have working there, all of them. And that I think that's what drives me a little bit.
I think a lot of people believe that if they just had money, they would be happier, they would be satisfied, their life would be more fulfilled. And in reality, it's contributing and making something. It's the actual creation of something new and beautiful that provides that self-worth. And individuals that acquire money without putting that work in, it's just an empty shell. And they don't realize it, but they become an empty shell. It's the journey that actually is the joy of life. It's not the money. Now, there's the necessity of money to get the food and the shelter and the things that we need to survive. But Adam, you've gone through this. You weren't handed anything as far as wealth in your life. You worked through it and earned it and built your character in getting to the point that you're at right now. What experience would you forego if you were just to be handed this position in the firm and the paycheck that you get?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Mike, you said it well. You got to go through those tribulations. You got to, they build character. And I think the attitude is everything. I asked you, what do you mean by attitude? Because you can have a bad attitude, you can have a good attitude. And I think you had this experience too, Shawn. You came from humble beginnings as well. And I think it's the true American spirit. I think if you embrace the idea that I'm here, but I can do what myself is my own limitation. If you really embrace that and you have a good attitude about there's going to be some hard things come at me, but it's how I respond to those. Am I just going to, I've told this before. I love Rocky, the movie saga of Rocky.
Sure.
And that's how I grew up. It was kind of like church, family, Rocky. That was the foundation of my upbringing, and Michael Jordan.
And there you go. You got to throw that in.
I got to throw that in. But, he would get knocked down, but you get back up. You always get back up. And what that looks like in real life is you have a bad day. Things didn't go as well as you thought they would. You assess that and you pivot. You don't let that keep you down. You keep moving forward, I think is this attitude. And I think you've embraced that over your life. Shawn, if you don't know, you listeners, Shawn was an impeccable wrestler. And he had an experience where your senior year, that all came to a halt because of an injury that just put him out. He had scholarships lined up to go to school. And how did you get through that? I mean, as I've often wondered this, as you see an elite athlete go through some sort of traumatic experience where they're injured to the extent that what they were as an athlete probably is never going to be what they had dreamed it to be. How do you mentally come back from that? I think it's the same attitude. It's the attitude.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what happened. I got in a car accident and I ended up breaking my neck along with several other bones. But my broken neck ended the career for wrestling. And at first I looked at that as catastrophic. I look back at it as the best thing that ever happened to me. And the reason why is because the same person that got into the car at the beginning of the trip got out of the car at the end of the trip with a broken neck, right? I didn't change overnight. And then I went into surgery and there was this miraculous thing that occurred because the statistics were not in my favor that I would actually regain the use of my limbs. I was partially paralyzed as a result of that surgery. And when I came out of the surgery, I had the use of my limbs back and this new lease on life and appreciation for just the ability to move around and to function. And I didn't want to take that for granted anymore. Now, did it instill automatically character? No. Then the hard work began, the rehabilitation, the going out there and getting a job, the applying for schools without any other,
help.
Yeah, help or any special attribute as an athlete to get into school. I had to just go and work through it. I went to community college. Graduated first from AWC, then I went on to Colorado State, made my way through that liberal institution. And
AWC or Colorado?
Colorado State.
Yeah.
No, AWC was fantastic. Colorado State was a test of my sanity. And then, went on to law school and a further test of my sanity. And some will argue that I didn't make it out so well. But it was really the fight that working through that and the loom of the debt that hung over my head and pushing to pay that off. And it took me 10 years to pay off that debt. And I worked a full-time job all the way up to law school where you couldn't work a full-time job. And it took me 10 years to pay off law school. And that, I think, puts me in a position where I sleep well at night because I know that things can happen and business can go bad. And this firm could go under. But what I've learned, the skills that we've acquired over the years, I say we because it's my wife and I, those aren't going to be taken away from us. And we can rebuild and we can provide for our family. And the same applies for you, Adam, because I've seen your family go through the same thing. I get to witness that, and it was fun to watch. Mike, I've seen it from the outside from you because I've been to your dealership on the inside and the back end of the garages and kind of look through memory lane as those trucks that you restored that have participated in your growth over the years.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and what a great story for you to recover, from something like that. Because one thing that I learned, and I never really, you go through life and you just think you're going to be fine all the time. You just take everything for granted. And when my dad got sick and he passed, it really was an eye-opener to, you could have all the money in the world and you can't fix that.
Right.
You can't get that back. So I mean, you got to live every day. You got to have a great attitude. You got to just take every opportunity that you can to enjoy your life and be a positive person. It's like they say, if a bad attitude's like a flat tire. You're not going anywhere till you fix it.
I love it. I don't know who says that, but now
I don't know.
Mike
either, but
Green says that.
Yeah. You heard it here first.
I'm gonna put it up. We're gonna put it up and frame that. There you go.
But it's true. It just so much of, I think, two things that I hold near and dear is attitude and effort. And I think if you have those two things, no matter what your situation is, and some of them, like yours, I mean, I didn't know that happened to you. That's amazing that you're sitting where you're at today, going through that and making it out of there. That's gigantic.
And I'm a man of faith. I proclaim that a lot on the radio. I know that God had a plan for my life.
Absolutely.
And he knew that I could do some good in the world despite of all of my flaws. And my family, they are the legacy. That is my legacy. I don't intend to leave them a big inheritance. I expect each of my kids to make it on their own. But I'm trying to give them chores. I'm trying to give them responsibility and hold them accountable for their own failures and not make up for them and give them the easier path. That would be easier on me. It'd be easier on them to not watch them suffer through these things. But I want them to be wolves in the sense that I want them to learn to feed themselves and their families without relying on anybody else, and especially the attitude part, feeling entitled that somebody else owes them something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm pretty confident you're going to pull that off.
We'll see. The jury's out.
Yeah. But, it's like, I mean, not to get into anything too personal, but like when my son, he wanted to be an airline pilot. And so he wanted to go to Embry-Riddle. And his mother and I were, separated a long time ago. And I told him I would pay for half. You need to go get the other half. You need to go get a student loan or scholarship or whatever's available to you, or get a job. She was upset that, and she's a great gal. I don't mean anything bad, but she was upset that I just wouldn't pay for it. And I said, he's got to have some skin in the game. He's got to learn how to invest. And this is a great opportunity for him, to do that.
Yeah.
You can't just say here, because, what happens in a couple of months and things get tough and he's like, man, what, I don't think I like this. Versus, man, I just borrowed $50,000. I better like it.
Yeah.
I better learn how to like it. I better get, and he went and he did well, and he flies a 767 for FedEx now.
Really?
Yeah. So he's doing fantastic. That was a while ago, but I mean, he's where he wanted to be. That was his thing that he wanted to do, but he had to get some skin in the game so he'd hang in there and do it. Same, with my daughter, I helped her out with her college part of it.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know exactly what she does. She works for some internet company that's way above my education level. I don't know what they're doing up there.
Yeah.
But they're both happy and they both love what they do.
So I think we're out of time, Mike, but I'm going to ask you a hard question, okay, to end this off.
Oh, great.
We're going to have you grace us with your wisdom. Talking to future employers or employers right now, what would be your one piece of advice to them to be successful, would you think?
Invest in your employees and train them to do the job right and show them how to do it. Because if they have that, and you instill that attitude in them, they'll do it. Because, at the end of the day, none of us are anything without our people.
Yeah,
I can't run that place without those people. I mean, it takes every single one of them to make it work, and they need to be trained. They need to be appreciated. They need to be, taken care of, paid fairly. There's a lot of things, but I think so many people are untrained, and it's not really anybody's fault. It's just like, nobody really does it, but it's, you look at companies that are, I don't know, probably even like In-N-Out Burger. They have a really extensive training program. Those people are always in there going 100 miles an hour. They're always smiling. They're always thanking you.
Yeah, there's a positive attitude when you walk in.
Chick-fil-A is probably another company, fast food company.
Discount tires.
Discount Tire, Nordstrom's. I mean, you could go on and on and on, but training, I think, is where it's at. I mean, that if I had to pick one thing.
I love it.
That's awesome. I somewhat jokingly, but not so much, say to my clients as I walk out of the office and I turn it over to my paralegal to, sign the paperwork and get the procedure going to get their affairs in order. I say, now, I've helped you establish the plan, and I'm going to take credit for everything that happens, but they're going to do all the work. And that's the reality of it. And so if they haven't been trained, then you're nowhere.
That's right. And you got to give them the credit for doing the work.
And I do.
I'm sure
I say, listen, this person is going to be doing a lot of the work. You're going to be contacting them. They're going to become your best friend.
Right.
Hey, thank you, Mike, for coming on our show.
Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Okay.
We'll have to do it again.
Okay. Sounds
It's
great.
not as bad as you thought it would be.
No, it's not. It's not bad. As soon as you guys unstrap me from this chair and let me out, it'll all be good.
I love it.
That's all the time we have for today. This is Life, Death, and the Law.
If you have questions or want to know more about something that was discussed today, please call the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen at 928-783-4575 or visit yumaestateplanning.com.
Want to hear more Life, Death, and the Law? You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, or any other platform you listen to your podcasts.